My hair is barely in frame, but like, not mad at it, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So I actually tried filming this video a couple of days ago, but it didn't turn out right. I was trying to do like a little cool meta thing where I would be undoing my braids while answering natural hair questions, but it wasn't all right. Is I take each braid. This is ridiculous. I need to stop before something like actually bad happens. So the questions I'll be answering I got from a friend of mine, and she's really cool, she's really smart, and she was like, you should make this into a video, and I was like, yes God. So her name is Sarah, she has a YouTube channel, go check her out here. She'll be making more content. She's just working a full-time job, so gotta respect the hustle. So with all those pleasantries out the way, let's get into it. Why do I prefer natural hairstyles? I prefer natural hairstyles now because I used to get relaxers done when I was younger. Now, my mom never forced them on me or anything like that. Like, I mean, there's 1 or 2 times she straightened my hair for family pictures, but you know, everyone has to bite the bullet for family pictures, so like no harm, no foul. But aside from that, I pretty much had pretty good autonomy over what I wanted to do with my hair. I mean, as you can see, I'm a product of that. So if I wanted to relax my hair, my mom, she would allow me, of course, with all the precautions and things like that. I just did what I wanted to do. I would say in high school is when I had the compulsion, or I felt like the need to fit in more than I normally did. Because around that time I was being socialized with a lot more people. And for those that don't know, I was homeschooled all the way from K to the end of high school basically. And my mom, she would sign me up for things, you know, so I would be around people that are in my similar situation. And so with that, being the only Black homeschooler for the most part in pretty much all the things that I was in with a few exceptions, it was kind of, you know, I felt pressured in a certain sense to look a certain way. Not like it was their fault, obviously, but I put that on myself. And so I straightened my hair, I relaxed my hair, blah, blah. But over time, it's just the pain of going through it and what it was doing to my scalp and my hair, it just was not worth the pain. I mean, there was a time a couple years ago where I like washed my hair, and you know, while it was wet, I saw the bits of my hair that were just, it would go straight down, like there was no curl pattern to it anymore. And so that kind of spooked me out a little bit. And so since the spring of 2017, I have not put a relaxer in my hair, and or any type of chemical straightener or any heat treatments, and I don't miss it at all. Next question. Why aren't more Black women open about alopecia? Well, I think like many medical conditions, there's still a lot of stigma attached to it. Most of the time, when a woman goes bald, most people think cancer or breakup. You know, there's not really a good or even a neutral connotation as to going bald. And from my research, there's 2 kinds. I'm not a doctor, so don't come for me. But there's 2 kinds of alopecia. One is alopecia areata, which is a autoimmune deficiency that attacks the hair follicles, and traction alopecia, which disproportionately affects Black women. And keep that in mind as we go along. On a related note, baldness is traditionally seen as a bad thing in the Black community, especially amongst Black women, because we put a certain amount of emphasis on our hair, you know, be thick and long and all that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. That just tends to be the norm for our Black women or Black people. And of course, it's not just us. People put that expectation on us as well. And I'll get to that in a second. Historically speaking, enslavers would cut off African women's hair as a form of punishment. And this is backed by a journal done by Shane and Graham White. It reads, former slaves who were interviewed for the Federal Writers Project in the 1930s make it clear, for example, that shaving the head of a slave was not an uncommon form of punishment. It seems, however, in the last years of slavery, unlike the situation in the 18th century, it was for the most part African American women who were treated in this fashion. Furthermore, it was almost invariably white women who meted out this punishment. So at the time, it was an act of, like they said, punishment, but really a form of dehumanization, and it was targeted towards women, so it's not that far-fetched to say that it was also an act of defeminization as well, especially because it was done by other women. So is it plausible to say that the idea of baldness is internalized in the Black community because of its roots in slavery? I would say yeah, it's plausible. However, in my research, a lot of modern day women are taking the shame out of being bald and are choosing to wear very short hairstyles or just going bald completely. And I'll link the article down below, so you should go check that out. Why wear wigs versus natural hair? So in a pragmatic sense, it can be a style preference. If I wanted to look like Farrah Fawcett, but didn't want to chemically relax my hair, didn't want to heat treat my hair or whatever, or bleach the crap out of it, then get a wig, put it on, and look like Farrah Fawcett. Another aspect to this is socioeconomic status and wealth. Anyone that knows anything about hair products, wigs, weaves, different kinds of hair and materials and all that kind of stuff, it can get really expensive. So if you see somebody with an expensive wig or expensive weave on or extensions, whatever, you're kind of like, yeah, they got money. So Chris Rock actually did a really good documentary about the modern day black hair experience. It's just several years old, so some things have changed since then, but for what it was at the time, it had a very comprehensive look at black hair and black hair culture in media. He involves celebrities, people that work in the hair care industry, people that work in the wig and the weave industry. It's well done. It's very entertaining to watch too. So if you're looking for something interesting to watch that's semi-educational, definitely check out this documentary. I'll link that below. Why is pressed hair seen as professional within the black community? Now, I know this question is asking why is it seen as professional within the black community, but we also have to remember that we are still a minority. So like for those of us who are going to work in places that are predominantly white, it looks professional to them. I just think for people in the black community, it's easier to assimilate into more traditional conservative work environments or places where they put emphasis on looking presentable, like whatever that means, obviously. And so like I don't think any one of us woke up one day and was like, you know what, straight hair, which is something that is not natural to us, that's going to become the cultural norm. I really do think it has some roots in colonialism and slavery, especially in this country. And reading from the article I referenced earlier, whites seem to have approved of some black hair arrangements, especially those that were neat and orderly. Joe, a gentleman's waiting man from Maryland, was said by his masters to have hair combed very nicely. And Jenny's Virginia master noted that his slave wore his hair combed and parted. So I think you can kind of get the idea from that there is trickle-down effects of when a dominant group tells a minority group or subordinate group that there's certain hairstyles that are considered neat and orderly or presentable. But when you're a minority in a country that tells you what kind of hairstyles are accepted, there's already inherent social power imbalance. So they take advantage of that to tell minority people what is acceptable and what is not. Is there still prejudice against African American hair, and have things changed? Well, I definitely do believe that things have changed. It would be borderline ignorant for me to not agree otherwise. Is there room to change socially speaking? I'd say yeah. For instance, just about a year ago, a high school wrestler by the name of Andrew Johnson had to choose between keeping his locks or his team losing the match. Now for some of you, you might be thinking, well, it's just hair, it's gonna grow back. And of course you're not wrong by saying that. However, just because something might be nonchalant to you doesn't mean it doesn't hold extreme significance, whether it's personal, cultural, religious, otherwise, to somebody else. So when you're told in a sense that there's something wrong with the way how your hair grows out your head and how you wear it, it seems like they're saying that there's something wrong about you intrinsically, which doesn't seem right. And I don't know nothing about wrestling, I've never seen a match or whatever, but from the stuff I've read, it doesn't seem like his dreads would have given him an advantage or disadvantage even. Apparently his head cover wasn't regulation or whatever. Then it's like, okay, how come you didn't have another cap for him to wear so he wouldn't have to cut off his dreads, you know? So there's just a lot there. But in better news, California passed the Crown Act back in 2019, which is barely a year ago, which prohibits discrimination based on hairstyle and hair texture. And these protections fall under the Fair Employment and Housing Act and the California Education Code. Now, socially, what's more encouraging these days is that there are a lot more Black people, Black women that are expressing themselves through YouTube, hair tutorials, TikTok tutorials. Because of social media, there's a lot more cohesion going around about what it means to have Black hair. And there's also great people stepping up to the plate, like Nancy Falaise, who is a natural hair care specialist. So what she does is she shuts down her shop every once in a while to give a workshop to these young Black girls about how to take care of their natural hair and how to destruct some of the negative things that they were saying about their hair. Kind of made these young girls realize that the things that they were saying were basically not true. So if you're interested in that documentary, which I hope you are, I will definitely leave a link in the description for you to check that out. So to sum it all up, at the end of the day, I hope we can really appreciate the progression that we have made in terms of self-acceptance and what it means to be who we are in today's society. And I really hope that, you know, the lessons that we learned of acceptance and tolerance can be moved in other aspects of our lives as well. If you are interested in learning more about this topic, which I hope you are, I will definitely leave more links down in the description and including the ones that I mentioned in the video. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye.